Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt here with life coach Daniel Mangana, and this is your daily dose of happy. We're so happy you decided to join us today, and we're having all kinds of fun today. We were talking about how just before we started doing the recording today, that NASA has successfully landed its Perseverance rover on Mars. And I mean, that's fun. I mean, there's a lot of money that's associated with it, a lot of work going into it, but it's nice to know that there's good things happening. Like I mentioned to you before the show, Daniel, that you can tune into it like, oh yeah, this feels good. This is like a pick-me-up, you know? It's almost like dealing with your son every day. I mean, you do the same kind of thing. You just get it on sort of a micro scale, but it's the same feeling.
I get my oxytocin hit pretty.
That's right.
I get it pretty groovily, yeah.
Which is cool. But yeah, I mean, we got to look for this stuff everywhere we can find it in order to keep the vibe up. And it's nice to know that it's there. So yeah. And just before we came on, I was watching the NASA feed on YouTube, and they're all up cheering. So it looks like they made it. I'm going to be looking forward to find out what they're going to get. I'm looking forward to all the video. That's always the fun thing, you know, seeing what pictures they can take on the surface and so forth. So yeah.
So this is an unmanned probe. How long is that been in the sky then?
I'm not sure how long the trip is from here to Mars. It's a while. That's the unscientific version. I don't know how long that trip takes. I think it's a matter of like a week or two. I'm not sure.
It's only a week to get to Mars. I thought it would have taken a
couple weeks. Maybe it's a month. I don't really know. I'm guessing. I'm throwing it out there. I just don't really know.
Can I Google it? Because I really need to know now.
Well, now that you've raised the question, now I'm curious too. Maybe it takes 6 months. No, I don't think it takes that long. I think it's a little bit, because I know the amount of time that it takes for the signal to get here is a matter of delay of like
7 months.
Seconds. Is it 7 months? Is it that far?
Yeah.
Wow. So okay.
The trip takes around 7 months, a bit longer than astronauts currently stay in the International Space Station.
Okay. All right.
Ooh.
Okay.
And it depends. The precise duration of each journey depends on when it is taken, because Earth and Mars's orbits are not perfectly circular. The time it takes to travel from 6 to 8 months.
So that makes sense. That makes sense. I know that the signal it gets here a lot quicker, because obviously we aren't up to traveling at the speed of light just yet. But that'll come. Oh, but this is good stuff. Anyway, we've been receiving emails as usual from listeners, and I wanted to share a couple of them. Yeah. First one comes from Deborah. She said, congratulations on giving your first talk. I gave a talk on Facebook as a way of kind of getting my feet wet, so to speak. She said, I'm sure it was great. Hope you enjoyed it, and very impressed that you followed through and actually achieved this milestone. Yeah, for me, that's a big deal, actually. Following through on stuff like that can be a little bit of a challenge for me, but I actually got through. She said, you mentioned it was available for us to see. Would love to. Can you please tell us where the link is? And yeah, I've got actually a link in the LOA Today page. I sent her one privately by email. If you just can't find it, send me a note and I'll send you the link. And I'd be very open to receiving any kind of feedback that you want to send. And then we got an email from a listener who wrote in for the first time. And this one's pretty cool because her name is Emma and she's writing from Scandinavia. So Emma has to say, I don't have a question, but I wanted to write anyway and say thank you. Listening to all of you over the last year has infused my life with positive energy. You have given me helpful tools for my daily life and truly lifts my spirit up to a place where I know I can feel excitement every single day. I'm a listener all the way from Scandinavia. I started listening to your show about a year ago, and it's wild to think about how different my life was just 12 months ago. I was very tired after years of working way too hard in a job going nowhere with a lot of responsibility and very little pay. Life was a struggle to support my 2 children. She's a single parent. And because of her economic situation, which she describes as difficult, she says I was having a hard time finding enjoyment in anything. I had totally given up on love, long time single after several destructive relationships. I had also put on a lot of weight, and it seemed totally impossible for me to lose weight. I think I had over several years gotten used to not feeling like myself, constantly being tired, constantly anxious, scared of everything, and thinking that my life was just hard. And this was also something I grew up with, hearing that life is a struggle and that I should always watch out for possible problems. For me, I think my turning point was that my body and brain started to fail me. It was signaling to me that I had to make a change, otherwise I would get sick. I was very scared to do so, but in March last year, I decided to quit my energy draining job. This was just when the pandemic started to unravel. I stepped out into unemployment without any safety net. Whoa, no savings, and the whole world screaming that the end was near because of the virus. But I started feeling a little better just in a couple of days in the quiet of my home. I decided to not follow the news very much, but instead use this time to paint my kids' room, something I'd wanted to do for several years. And while painting, I started listening to a few episodes of your podcast, just had it on in the background. When the room was finished, I started taking long walks, listening to your positive chatter, and I found myself smiling and feeling good. I also started experimenting with meditation, inspired by your talk of the results. And with every passing day, I felt more calm, more energetic, and I started to actually feel grateful for my situation, to my own surprise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this helped me create some space every day from my negative and scared thoughts of my economy and the uncertainty of my situation. In May, I found a new job with much better pay, a healthier, less stressful working environment, and positive and helpful colleagues. I started appreciating my life more, little things, and I was able to be a more positive and calm parent to my children. My new job also gives every employee a few hours every week for exercising. Just as it happens, in August, I started to lose weight, and it was almost effortless. It was no longer a struggle. I kept doing the self-love exercises, taking time for myself, not meeting my own needs like I had, not making my own needs. That sentence didn't work. I think what she means is not failing to meet my own needs like she had before. I started to be observant of chaos instead of being worried from it, and practiced, and I'm still practicing, to turn my attention away from chaos and be confident that the universe will find a way, the best way. I also try not to put energy into comparing my life to others. This has been easier during the pandemic when there is a lot less posted on social media about luxurious consumption, such as traveling, restaurants, hotel stays, etc. And in October, I met a man. He is positive, calm, and he is also a single parent and has the same life goals. He is not afraid of commitment, and he just makes me feel good about me. And now we spend every free time together, and it also feels effortless. I'm so thankful to you all for giving me all the tools I needed to pull myself out of my rut and putting me in contact with a higher vibe that just keeps getting better and better. It feels like the universe has been waiting a long time for me to get myself together, and now it's showering me with gifts. My employer has plans for raising my salary this spring, which makes it easier for me to pay back my loan I had to take during my unemployment. I also get to work with a project that is exactly the kind of work I feel joy about, like it was created for me. I've lost all my excess weight, and I'm now back in a good, loving relationship with my own body. My boyfriend and I have started talking about moving in together. He has been saving money for several years and has a dream of owning a nice house in the countryside. This is a dream I have had for a very long time, but never even spoke of because I thought it could never be reality. And now I know better. We now dream and plan for this house and for a great life for us and all of our children. I never would have believed that my life could change in so many positive ways in only 1 year. It's wonderful to get all this love, and joy that I deserve, but you all deserve my deepest thank you for getting the ball rolling for me. You truly made a difference in individual lives. I hope you all feel my loving energy and have a wonderful day. In parentheses, I'm a very private person and ask that you not mention my name. Oh, I'm sorry, I mentioned her name. I apologize like that, but I won't say anything else about who she is. And I do not want to be included in your podcast. Oh, no. Shit. Should put that at the top of the list. Oh, no. Well, the good news, Emma, is that this is such a good piece of news. Let me tell you, I apologize. You should put that at the top so I would have known that. But the good news is people are going to love this. This is like a big pick me up for everybody, including those of us who do the show. And it's just, what a great feeling to know that here's a listener who not only is getting benefit from what we're doing, but oh my God, what a turnaround in 1 year, Dan. I mean, just holy cow.
The power of consistency and just trusting. And what I love as well about this is she didn't go on a big mission. She was just painting and listening along.
Yeah.
And it started to do the work.
She kept it simple. She kept it so simple. which is exactly what you need to do. So I apologize. I didn't read the whole email at the end. I would have, if I hadn't seen that at the end, I wouldn't have read it on the show. So I apologize about that. But on the other hand, wow, you should be proud of yourself. This is great. This is really great.
Definitely.
Holy cow. Wow. I mean, I'm just pleased that we were, I think, a small part of it, because, yeah, we're providing some support in the background, but she did it.
She did the work.
She did all the work.
There are, I don't know how many people every day listening to, downloading this podcast and listening to it on a weekly basis. Not everybody's getting the results because not everybody's doing the work. The work is what actually creates the difference at the end of the day.
It is. It really is. So, but I have learned something. I have learned, I'll read the end of the email before I read the email.
Please do, Walt.
I was like, oh, please. Oh, God.
We know the future.
Yeah, no for the future. But at least it's a good one. I mean,
exactly.
It's a really, really good one. Oh, my heart is saying thank you so much, Emma, for sending that in. That was just so good. Speaking of love going out, we're sending out love to our friend Alex, who is dealing with hospitalization today. No, she's not in any real danger, but she's going through a surgical procedure. So we're thinking about her as usual. Sending a lot of love her way. And I don't know how to describe it other than, well, yesterday I had a cool thing happen. Well, the one part was not cool. That was Monique couldn't make it because she's in the middle of all those rolling blackouts going on in Texas. But to fill the gap when she wasn't here, Joel Elston came back for a day.
Oh, nice.
And that was a really great visit. And one of the things that came out of that visit was appreciation, first of all, for the friendship. And second of all, for kind of looking back in the same way that our listener looked back to her past year, looking back on my years here, because obviously Joel and I kind of go way back on the podcast, and it was giving me that, I wouldn't call it nostalgia. It's more like, just kind of reflecting on where the journey has gone so far and where it's pointing to. And we were also talking specifically about what's been going on lately. I mean, the COVID pandemic is on the decline, which is a great thing. We talked about some of the reasons that are involved in that. Most notably, the fact that I think that overall people are just feeling better about themselves. They don't have to necessarily know conscious creation, right? They don't have to know how all this stuff works, but they're feeling better about themselves. It's almost like the entire world just took a breath.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where we're at right now.
Let go of the stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's also been so much combative energy running around, right? With the build up and all the strife and stuff that was happening last year, the build up to the election, and then there was a fight after the election. All that energy is tied up and creating a really disempowering field of energy, which isn't one that's going to be patterning health.
Right.
So now that's lifting. We finally got the impeachment stuff done with. Not everyone's happy with it, but it's done. So the energy that was looped into that is freed up as well. So there's actually more energy available to create expansive outcomes.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been saying for quite some time, I didn't know that my date was going to be that good of a date. I thought by like April 1st, most of the pandemic was going to be behind us. I think now by April 1st, most of the pandemic is going to be behind us. I mean,
we'll see.
It's looking good.
I know that I don't really want to get too much into this before we get blacklisted, but I've managed to I've had no warnings in any of my Facebook groups. I've had no warnings on any of my posts on social media because I completely stay out of politics and virus stuff. I don't have anything. Yeah. But the fact is that England was the first country to authorize a vaccine, and they've got into even heavier lockdown. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes out. But the figures, the numbers in the States at least are dropping, and other places tend to follow.
It's globally too. I mean, there's a page you can go to that check the global numbers, and across the world, everywhere it's going through this decline. It's not just in the States.
Which is waiting for the memes that say that it's because Donald Trump's not in office anymore.
Well, that's always possible. You can't rule that one out.
I'm waiting for those memes. So. Did you see, by the way, did you see any of those memes of somebody tell Biden how to use the weather machine?
No, I didn't see that one. No.
It's funny because there was an episode of Stargate SG-1 where they took a weather machine from another planet and it did actually do this exact same thing. There was like snow in the most random places. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
That was funny. Like, is it true? Where is the Stargate? So
yeah, right. Well, I think it's supposedly in Colorado, isn't it? I mean, that's what the story says. So.
Yeah, but would they tell us it's in Colorado if it's really
in Colorado? Right.
Maybe now we know it's actually in Texas. So
well, they also had the other installation in Antarctica, right? I mean, maybe it's actually all in Antarctica.
Could be.
You never know. Yeah. But the point, I think, remains: everything is pointing toward feeling better, and people are feeling better. You see it. You mentioned memes. You see it in the memes that come out. The memes have changed. They've shifted.
Definitely.
Now part of that is, what do you subscribe to on Facebook? Because you're, it responds to what you talk about.
Yeah.
So it's part of it's that. But even so, I mean, I'll every once in a while tune into what's going on among friends that I don't really, stay much in touch with. And there I'm seeing stuff changing too. It's just like there's like a shift going on. Maybe it's part of the overall global shift. I don't know. But I'm just perceiving that. That's why I described it as everybody seems to have taken a breath, like this just breath of relief. And whether they did it consciously or subconsciously, it doesn't matter. A breath is a breath. That's the way I look at it. So, yeah. So with that very happy thought in mind, I don't have a plan other than that for a topic today. I'm still living in the aftermath of my show with Joel yesterday, because after we were done with the show, I love talking with Joel. He loves talking with me. After we were done, as we always do whenever he comes on in a surprise appearance, because his schedule is so crazy, I never know when he can come on. It's always, well, we got to do this more often. And then, it doesn't really actually work out.
We should do this more often.
That's it. Yeah. But after the show, we agreed that is exactly what happens. And so he said he's going to start checking his schedule and looking for when he's got 4 o'clock openings, and then hold them available for us. And he said he'll contact me. I said, no, just hold them open. I mean, all the co-hosts will love to have you on the show, so don't worry about it. I'll just do whatever to get them on, right? But yeah, I think we may actually get them on more often. Maybe 2 or 3 times a month or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be really, really great. Just one more piece of feel good. Really so,
send that vibe up, send it higher.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody asked a question. I don't remember if it was through the podcast or something I saw online or whatever, but somebody was asking a question about sending love. And what made me think of it is we were sending love to our friend Alex, and it kind of led me into a speculation I wanted to ask you about. I have this belief system that says that we don't really have to send love. All we have to do is keep building up the love, and you build it up to a point where you've got all that you need, and it just kind of bubbles over. And it just kind of, because we're all energetically connected, we're all source energy, right? So you build it to the point where you have enough. The excess just kind of flows into the overall stream. And so, I mean, you can certainly direct it if you want to, but you don't have to. It still ends up going where it needs to go. And I was just wondering, does that align with what you think?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I think so, yes. I think when our cup's full and overflows, it adds to the world in lovely ways. It adds to other people. But it does require our cup. And I think, again, just going back to those, the core, the foundation of this whole thing is that we can only give from what we have.
Yeah.
And we're going to give what we are too. It's like, when I bless something because my resonance with it is blessing. I curse something the same way. And we're always adding or taking away from our environment because everything's constantly in motion. And if we're just bringing a level of awareness to what's going on, then we can actually turn ourselves into a walking blessing machine, even when we're not even consciously directing it at people, just our presence in it, our presence in a conversation, our presence in a room, our presence in a Facebook group just adds that light. But it does come down, I think, and it's just the thing I want to keep front and center with everyone, and even myself, me being filled up first.
That kind of adds up with the way I had it in mind too, that when we're filling ourselves up, we're really fulfilling the primary need that each one of us has. I mean, we need energy. So much of what we human beings do, whether for our own good or for our own not so good, we do it because we're needing energy, and we need to have that energy so we can apply it in various ways in our lives. So much of human interaction is about, stealing energy because we need the energy so much, right? A lot of that is what it's all about. And so it makes it pretty clear that is the primary task. That's the first thing that we need more than anything else before we can even think about going after our goals in life, trying to manifest the lives of our dreams. We need the energy. The energy is first and foremost. And the energy is self-love. That's when you build your self-love, you're building your energy up. So when I look at it that way, that's why I was thinking it's kind of like having, I think you used the word a cup. When you have a cup that just overflows, that's essentially what we're talking about. It overflows and it doesn't get lost. The energy doesn't go away,
No. Energies need to be created nor destroyed.
That's right. Well, actually it does get created. That much we learned from David Strickle.
Oh yeah.
so it's actually increasing all the time.
Yeah, it's always expanded.
But but you never get destroyed. That's the key thing. Energy never goes away. It never disappears entirely. So yeah, and that's a positive feeling too, because that means every single time every one of us pulls an Emma and just starts, redirecting our lives. Not only is she redirecting her life for the better, but she's having a spillover influence on her kids, on her new boyfriend, on her new colleagues at work, at the new place where she's working. I mean, the spillover just kind of happens everywhere. And she didn't have to include it.
And everyone gets a taste.
They all get a taste. That's right. And she doesn't even have to make it a deliberate thing. That's the part I'm finding so cool. You don't have to think about, well, I want the energy to go over there. It just goes where it needs to go, as it needs to go. In fact, I think law of attraction plays a really big role there. In other words, where intent goes, that's where the energy goes. And there's lots of intending going on. We live in a world of intending.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not like there's any lack of places for it to flow to. It's almost like, I guess maybe where's to go first, but even then it doesn't matter, because the point of energy is that it flows. It's not like it kind of pools and just stays in one place. This is my energy. Keep it away from me. You don't get my energy. Sorry.
It's my energy. You cannot have any of it. Wow. Right, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down, pal.
Fortunately, it doesn't work that way. It just flows and flows and flows. So we may live in a world of contrast, but that world of contrast, man, I guess I'm getting. I guess what I'm driving at is I'm getting a sense of just how powerful the concept of expansion from contrast really is. Because that expansion happens through this process we're describing and discussing right here. This flow, this continuous flow. It's almost like it's an accelerating flow. Do you get that feeling that it's just picking up, like the energy flow is increasing?
I think that more people are becoming aware of it, and so it's getting more life, and so the pace of it is becoming apparent to us. Whereas 50 years ago, people weren't talking about energy as widely as they are today, and so the collective agreements around it are going to be different now. More people are meditating, more people are talking about these conversations about consciousness and energy. And so that awareness is giving it more life, and that life may be apparent to us as like a quickening pace.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to go back to my question. So is the speed of energy increasing?
I don't know, but it's definitely being perceived as being fast. And at the end
it
of the
certainly
day,
is perceived. Yeah.
It's how we perceive it. You put an adult and a child in the car journey, the car's going exactly the same speed for one, it's going to be perceived as slowing down because they're really bored. For one, it's speeding up because they're really excited. It's the perception of it that really matters, I think.
True. Yeah, because the perception is what drives our point of consciousness and how we're interacting, our experience, right? But I actually think it's increasing largely because of the expansion. I think expansion includes things going faster, so to speak. I'm trying to think how to express that. Well, okay, let's look at it in terms of the growth of technology. There's an example of it, right? In during my lifetime, the acceleration in technology has been, oh my goodness. And I remember my parents and my grandparents talking about how much time had changed since they were growing up, right? You know, what was the phrase that they all used? There was that one phrase, oh, my, ain't technology wonderful. That was the common phrase, right? It was their way of marveling at all this stuff that had popped up. Now, if they saw the kind of acceleration that we're experiencing today, well, probably a lot of them did have heart attacks. I mean, it was just too much to handle. But at the time, it was major change. You look back to like 200 years ago, before anything we would recognize as technology started to come about, life was pretty slow. It was pretty static in some ways. I mean, it wasn't static, but it was, relatively speaking, a lot slower. Let's put it that way.
I'd agree. Yeah. I'd agree. I mean, again, we've got such easy access to things now that things are moving faster because there's less of a delay time. And so our spatial reference to time is going to be relative to the fact that everything, I mean, right now, we are talking in real time from a couple of thousand miles away.
Right. Exactly. That's a good example. Yeah.
I didn't have to send you a letter and wait for the horses or the boat to take it like all the way yonder. It's like, yeah, hey, Walt, let's have some instant communication. And now it's been blasted people all over the world.
Right.
They didn't have to wait for it to be me to travel to you, you to travel to me, for us to record something, and then for it to go to the local movie theater. I was like, instant access.
I mean, I can remember when a telephone call this far would have been like this. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
And even the time to like dial up, like
that's right.
Dialing up. I got it wrong. I got to hang up and start again. Okay. What number was I on again? 7. Hello. It's like now I can just click. Hey, Walt. It's just.
And at the other end, it was.
It's bonkers. Yeah, technology, and now we're an Apple household, so we've got iPads, we're all MacBook, iPhone, and now we're all Apple Watch as well. Like everything's just like connected and just doing things, and blah, 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 blah. And it's instant. So our experience of time is everything's happening now. It's happening more now.
That's right. Yeah.
So things that don't take, like now, waiting for an email. The email didn't come instantly. What happened?
That's right. My God, I've waited a whole 30 seconds here. I don't have that kind of time.
What's going on? Is it my junk mail? It's like we've got this distorted relationship to time that's coming from our experience of what we're doing in the realm of time, which is speeding up.
I just had a memory from when I was like 3 or 4 years old. We lived in upstate New York, and we went to visit my grandparents who lived in Kansas, and we went by train. And it was a sleeper train, right? So you went into these little compartments that had these pull-down beds and all that kind of thing. And I mean, fortunately, at that age, I was not the height that I am now. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to fit in the beds. I mean, it was just not possible.
I'm going to sleep now.
And I guess I bring it up because at that time, it seemed so cool. It seemed like, whoa, this is really something, because it was outside of our normal experience. if you go to like a museum and look at one of these sleepers today, you say, oh my God, how could anybody travel like that?
and the thing is, it's changing again, like when I travel longer haul and I get to like pull my bed out and all this kind of stuff. And then you look at 10 years ago, there weren't like bedrooms. Like now, if you go like super first class in some of the fancy airlines, they've got like a hotel suite.
Right, yeah.
Airplane, you're
Yeah.
paying 25, 30 grand for the pleasure, but you get like a whole thing. And we're looking at one, our neighbors were here because we're talking about all of us going to Dubai later this year. And we're laughing and joking about, Emirates have got the fancy first class and there's like even a makeup kit, like a whole makeup thing in the airplane. It's like, wow, this is crazy. But 10 years ago, wasn't really, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when, commercial intercontinental airline really started kicking off. You had your seat. Yep. Maybe it would lean back a little bit.
If you were lucky.
The chair leans back. Oh, fancy.
Yeah, right.
But now things are advancing. We're just talking about going up into space, new frontier. Right now, if you go on a Virgin Galactic or whatever, you've just got very comfortable, fancy chair, but it's a chair. Soon it'll be going up and doing a whole orbit and going out up to space for a little bit longer and then coming to land. And then, would you like a bed? No, I'm going to stay awake and watch the whole experience.
Yeah, right.
It's continuing to change and evolve, and we're finding new heights. And I believe it is expansion in action.
That's exactly what it is.
The inherent divine spark within us that seeks to create and innovate and come up with new ideas. Yes, it could be the aliens feeding us information. It could be people channeling other dimensions, or it could just be good old human ingenuity. Either way, it's definitely expansion in action.
No doubt about that. Yeah. You're making me think too, because I remember a number of shows back, you and Alex were both opining you'd love to be, one of those interplanetary travelers.
Oh yeah, I'm game for it. I'm cheering Elon on. I'm cheering him on.
Now this is like 4 or 5 months ago. So in the overall timeline we're talking about, that's like an eon ago, right?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Has it increased in that eon is what I'm wondering. Is it even more of a thing now for you than it was 6 months ago?
I would say, yeah. Now I've got a weekly thing of me looking at space stuff and staying on the cutting edge. I've gone on one of my micro shifts that I made in terms of creating and like manifesting going up to space was registering my interest formally with Virgin Galactic and getting on their email list so that they can keep me updated with what's going on. Yeah, so I'm like formally on that. So yeah, definitely that's a first step. I actually got an invitation at the back end of last year to be an early investor in another space development thing that I'm looking at for this year for the fund that I'm a partner in. So yeah, we're looking at some really, really cool opportunities that are coming from space. But again, all of this is well and good, but I just want to let everyone know I'm not sort of living with my head in the clouds like, oh my God, I'm going to go to space. Like there's real stuff going on to actually make that happen, but I definitely am psyched about the potentials that are coming from interplanetary travel, space travel, all that kind of good groovy stuff.
Well, when you think about that potential, does anything specific come to your mind? Is there anything that it just occurs to you like, well, this could happen?
I've been obsessed with the stars for as long as I can remember. I can't remember. I actually don't recall a time when I wasn't obsessed with looking at the stars at night and just feeling a deep sense of awe and peace and wonder at space. I get excited about it. My obsession with sci-fi isn't really the exploration of the human condition. It's the idea of buzzing around in the stars and all that kind of good stuff. I don't know. Maybe I got dropped on a star when I was a baby, and this is what happened. But definitely, I've got, I would say to some extent, in some instances, a bit of an unhealthy obsession with it. I'm very, very, very committed to it.
Unhealthy? I don't think it's unhealthy. I can't imagine how it'd be unhealthy, especially with you. But I won't rule it out.
Olga might differ.
Oh, I see. Okay. We'll stay out of that one too.
We'll stay out of that one. It's like, babe, it's like you would have spent how much doing what?
Yeah, right.
I want to go to space, babe. So I've got some responsibilities I need to make sure we're taken care of first before I'm permitted to sink our family fortune into me going to space for 90 minutes. But yeah, we're definitely, I'm definitely all about it.
But it sounds like it's more like, I mean, you said 90 minutes just now. That's a bit of a time frame.
Well,
It's more like I just want to go do a little visit. I don't want to spend a lot of time there. I just want to go out there and say hello.
In terms of what's there now, right? So like I always keep anchored in what's available now, and then sort of stay on the edge of what's coming next. Like right now, I know Virgin Galactic, they actually take it up into space. They've got the thing, that commercial. Who knows what Bezos' his space program is going to do, right? We don't know what that's going to do. We know SpaceX are, really committed to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my piggy bank saving up however many millions that one's going to cost. Babe, I'll be back in 2 years of just popping to Mars and coming back. No, you're not. So maybe I have to wait for the new propulsion engines to get downloaded from the quantum field before I can do that one. But yeah, definitely, it's up there with something I'm definitely gonna get.
I think probably what you're really looking for is you're looking for the company that comes along and invents the transporter pad.
That one is going to be. I would definitely offer a kidney for a.
Wow! Oh,
I'd offer a kidney for that one. I would.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to be a part of that.
Well, presumably, if they do have the transporter, I mean, from what they told us about it on Star Trek, they're not just scrambling your molecules; they can actually kind of reproduce it. So it's an instant cloning thing. So you could give up the kidney and get it back during the trip. I mean,
who knows?
It's quite possible.
Although the Fly, now you've said it, like the film The Fly does leave me a little bit disconcerted about the recombination of energy. Might have to think twice about that one.
I always thought of space. I always thought of Dr. McCoy's response. I don't like having my atoms flying all over the galaxy.
That's some reflection after these very wise inputs from you, Sir Walticus. Do maybe have me thinking a little bit about this obsession, but I don't know. It's all fun and games, but definitely the way that humankind is developing, and the way technology is developing, and they just landed on the moon again, on Mars again today.
Right.
I firmly believe that we'll be doing some fancy star travel within my lifetime. Pentagon have just released papers to say that they've been testing UFO crash material. That was in the newspapers. Mainstream news actually reported this. This wasn't.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that flashed and came back. That was. They had the papers they released, I don't know, a few months ago, where they coughed up all the stuff that they've been doing. That a lot of the kind of woo-woo stuff we talk about is real. They've been investigating it. Okay. And it came out a couple of days ago in like mainstream papers, not half-baked local news. That yeah. So we've been testing UFO crash material for a little while.
Now I'm curious. I have to ask, what did they find?
I didn't read it.
Okay.
I was laughing because I was like, yeah. But I'm into the UFO stuff, so I'm like, yeah, obviously it's been going on. No, I get it, but it's interesting to see what people who have been doubters of it now have got to say. So we'll see what comes out. We'll see what comes out of it, but we may find, I think, over time that a lot of stuff that's been happening in science fiction is actually science fact. We started watching a documentary about that the other day that was talking about the fact that certain government agencies drop stuff in the media to desensitize people to it, and this has actually came out in congressional hearings and all kinds of stuff. But we may be involved in Hollywood. But like, okay, that's not disconcerting.
Not much.
But yeah, they've been investigating crash site stuff. So interplanetary, intergalactical stuff may be happening already, and it's just not been brought into the mainstream. Who knows? Infinite possibilities and all that. But what I do know is as soon as I can get on one of those bad boys, I'm doing it.
All right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, what we do know is that all science fiction that as far as we're aware, was created by humans sitting at desks writing about science fiction scenarios and creating these books and putting them out there. Now, I don't know, maybe some of them were being fed to us by somebody at Alpha Centauri. Can't rule that one out, I suppose. But to the best of my knowledge, these are just humans doing this. And I see evidence of this all over the place. I'm sure most people do if they really look. There are lots of people who tell you all kinds of things. I mean, there's a guy, I can't remember what his name is. He's on YouTube. He's got huge numbers of followers. And one of his favorite things to talk about is slave colonies on Mars that he claims really exist. So, okay, there are a lot of different ways we could try to explain that. When the bottom line is this guy's coming out with a story that says that there are slave colonies on Mars, and he believes it. And there are a lot of people who believe it with him. Okay. At the very least, that's very good sci-fi writing.
Or very overactive, or maybe it's been watching too many reruns of Total Recall.
Juxtaposed that too, yeah.
With Justice League, John Jones stuff. Who knows how it all mixes up and mixes in. But I think when we come back to the fact of infinite possibility, every single one of these timelines does exist. Otherwise, infinite possibility doesn't exist. And our belief in it actually attaches us to those timelines and allows them to experience them in this level of consciousness. So I have no doubt that the fact that I believe and accept the possibility of UFO action meant that, okay, I'm in a timeline where the Pentagon confesses, yeah, we've been messing around with stuff. Okay, cool. So I like to direct that to be really deliberate in where I'm placing my attention and where I'm placing my belief and where I'm placing my focus, because that's pulling those quantum potentials closer to me and allowing me to experience them.
I mean, that makes total sense. It does. And to me, the whole thing is just a story about how wonderful creativity is. I mean, I tend to label it human creativity because humans are what I know. But wherever it's coming from, I think it's human creativity. I think the human creativity is just phenomenal.
Definitely.
I mean, the ideas that come out are just, some of them I scratch my head on, but nevertheless, I mean, they're just phenomenal.
100%.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's fun. Again, I think it's where perspective plays an important role, because I could easily look at all these things and say, oh my God, these terrible things are happening. How could it possibly allow this? Why is the government not cracking down? Or, I could go in 1,000 negative directions too. So it's important to maintain, I think it's important to maintain a positive perspective on the whole thing. Kind of like the David Strickle Stream of David view, the pull back to non-physical perspective idea, and just kind of look at it that way. And I've been doing that a lot lately with a lot of different subjects, and finding, well, first of all, not only does it desensitize to all that stuff that I could easily have hung on to before, but wow, it really does give you a cool perspective. I mean, you can see a lot. You can understand a lot just by looking at what you know about that way. That's what I'm finding. That just having that perspective, really, it's almost like you get an education that you didn't have before. Simply because you're looking at you're looking at a whole bunch of stuff. You're not looking at just one or two things. You look that far back, you're seeing like a wide spread of stuff after a while. It doesn't take too long to get to that point.
Agreed.
And that's where the cool is. That's where the fun is. So yeah, good stuff is happening. Really good stuff is happening. Definitely. Go take a break just for a moment to remind people, send in your stuff. I promise if you put it at the top of the list, don't read this, then I will notice it. Oh God. Please just put it up there so I can see it first and foremost, and then tell me the rest of it, and I'll just respond privately. But for those of you who want to include your stuff on the show, please use the form for that too in the LOA Today app, because that's what we have it there for. And we do get really great emails of all kinds that we love where possible to share. But we also love the questions too. We haven't gotten a lot of questions lately for us to kind of dissect and figure stuff out. So if you've had something that you wanted to kind of hang on to, or that you have been hanging on to, that you've been a little bit afraid of broaching, don't be afraid. We just got one today that's going to be for Dean next Tuesday. The military medium, because this particular listener wants to have sort of a psychic reading. So that's coming up, but it can be on anything. I mean, right now I'm talking to a man who is because of the means that he has developed over the years through his various businesses and so forth. He's talking about being able to buy his way onto a spaceship. I mean, this is the guy you want to ask some questions about if you want to increase your means. Send him questions, do that. And then check us out on YouTube too, because then you get to see what we're acting like when we're acting silly like this. So check us out on YouTube, subscribe there as well. Click the little bell so you get notified when we put something out there. But either way, send us stuff, because that's just fun. That's where it does two things. First, we love hearing from people.
Yes, definitely great to, especially stories like today from She Who Shall Not Be Named.
That's right. Well done. I like that. Yes. And secondly, because, it's just fun to hear what they're doing. It's fun to hear, the different ways that people are being affected. And plus, if we can help somebody, that's like, cherry on top of the whipped cream. It's just fabulous at that point. But it gives you a rush. So give us a rush. Okay.
Yes. Give us a rush. We need more time, space dilation stuff. I don't know. Just send your blinking questions in, guys. Come on. We love them.
Oh, that's funny. So let's go back down to earth for a little bit. And let's talk about, again, we try not to get too much into, the news or politics and all that. But I want to get into it in just kind of what I'm seeing as a positive way right now, because literally right now, as I look around, I don't really watch the news closely, but I follow the news a little bit. Just, not so much that it's going to bring my vibe down, but just so I can keep track of stuff.
But it's sensible to be aware of what's going on.
As a plus it also gives me stuff to talk about on the show. So, it's helpful that way too. And I'm going to go back to the theme that I started this particular podcast with, that it's like everything is pointing up right now. Everything that's coming through, even the negative stuff.
That one you need to explain. that one I need
it's because
I need a heads up on that one.
Think about it this way. When we are riding the wave, so to speak, when we're riding the roller coaster of contrast, we're up in the high zone, down the low zone, so forth. If it's like when you're on the roller coaster and you've just flown down 500 feet in 5 seconds, and then you come to the bottom, and now you're starting to come back up again. You're at the low end right now, but you're coming up. So that's what I'm saying. Even that low end stuff, it's all on the up swoop right now. And I see it in terms of the news stories. Like the worst news stories are like, 1/4 as bad as they were 3 months ago, because they just can't. They're it's almost like they're trying to find, how can we find something that's really, really bad? I can't find anything. we'll settle for sort of bad. How about that? Okay.
The bad middle ground.
Bad middle ground, right? But it's true. It's like everything is just pointing up right now. To give you an example, one of the things we were talking about COVID a moment ago, right? They're reporting on this decline that's going on in COVID, and it's showing up in all the stories. And the interesting thing about the way they're doing it, the earliest stories right after the curve started to go down were basically dismissing it, saying, well, that's just a phantom. It's going to go away anytime. And then it kept going down. And so now they had to start explaining it. And they started coming up with, this is one of the best things I ever heard. One of the reasons that a doctor was trying to give as to why the curve was going down is that spring is around the corner.
Okay, I don't get it.
I didn't know that COVID was that interested in spring, but I mean, it's good to hear, It's like they're reaching. They're trying. What can we find?
I don't really get that one. I don't get it. I don't get that one.
Well, I don't either. I don't think it makes any sense. It's irrational, but it's what's happening when you have somebody who is trying to find that really scary thing and they can't find it, so they latch onto something, anything. Just come up with an explanation. Doesn't it's the fake news. You just make it up, right? And what they're making up isn't all that bad compared to what it was.
I thought we had something, Monty. No, we don't. Be okay with that. Like, it doesn't have to be scary and sad all the time. There could be some happy stuff.
Yeah, that alone is probably scary to some people.
Yeah, but what's it? Is it like an 80% negative bias exists with human beings?
Where does that come from? It sounds about right, but
I don't remember what it was. I was on a podcast with I was a podcast guest, and someone gave me the stats and they gave me the source, but then I can't remember.
Yeah, that's all right. But it makes sense. I mean, 80%. Yeah, I think I picked that one out of thin air. That feels right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where most of it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that right now the 80% are kind of lean.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we got to keep our 80% going here, guys.
We will not be defeated.
That's right.
We will maintain our power. I give it up, man. Like, just chill out. No, I will not chill out. We will have sad news for all.
I love it.
God. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, what would happen if actually the newscasters ran out of sad news? Like they couldn't even vent anymore. They'd have to go on vacation, to basically recharge on giving sadness.
Yeah. These people, they're being too bloody happy. Give them some sad news.
I mean, Joel was talking yesterday. This is one of his favorite things about how whenever there's a weather event, major, like the winter storm that came through Texas and the southern part of the country, he points out that the Weather Channel, their listenership and their viewership quadruples, because
really,
well, I think that's an exaggeration, but the point is that it goes up and it makes them more money. They can sell more advertising.
So basically, when things are more poo, people are more interested in what's going on.
Yeah, they tune in for it. That's what they're looking for. So
interesting.
It's almost like the people in the Weather Channel places, AccuWeather and Weather.com and all of them, they're looking for what's the latest thing that we can scare people with.
Well, people respond to fear quite actively. Yeah. That's an actual thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear moves people. I don't know. I personally think it's to do with the neural pathways around fear. If you look at how easy it was to get people jacked up with fear over this entire pandemic, like people have been jacked up and fearful and all of the things, and it wasn't difficult to get people to, and again, we're not getting political, but at the end of the day, people agreed to stay in their homes. They agreed to not be allowed to travel. They're agreeing to, medical procedures that haven't gone through the normal. And I'm not saying anything about quality of medical procedures.
Right.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm saying, generally speaking, the type of medical action that people are taking spends years in development and testing, and things have been rushed through in a matter of weeks. This isn't something that you'd normally have people doing. Look, people are taking up arms and marching on the Capitol and killing people and all this kind of bonkers stuff. And you can't find ammunition in the US, right?
Yeah, right.
Which is a bit of a scary situation. So when it's that easy to put someone there, but try to spread some good news. It just doesn't work in the same way. So the neural pathways, we're seeing that the ease with which we're adopting behaviors matched with more disempowering spaces is a lot easier, apparently, than positivity. So anything that comes from, or choices that are being made from that space, such as fear-based choices, are probably going to have more of a home, because at the end of the day, the resistance to those ideas and the thoughts that back them up just aren't there. The same, and by the way, just isn't there.
This fear thing, where the pandemic is concerned, I have seen numerous medical professionals say on camera, admit on camera, they're trying to scare people into following the protocols.
Yeah, of course.
The fear is a big part. It's a deliberate, intentional part of what they're trying to do, because they feel that's going to be the best way to achieve their desired result, which is to get everybody, staying away from each other and not infecting each other. So it's a deliberate thing.
Whether or not things are real or not, all right, I'm not a medical professional, and I tend a lot of the time to keep my nose out of purporting to know stuff about stuff that I don't know. I don't know about all of that, but what I do know is this: the numbers don't lie as to the overall scheme of things. If you look at untampered statistics, like Tony Robbins got on camera and did a whole thing about the statistics, and he's not a medical doctor either, but he's not a stupid person. And he went up and said, look, have a look for yourself at these resources for these statistics and make a choice for yourself. I think, again, my whole thing is just, are people making choices for themselves? And in the most part, they're not making choices for themselves. If people did start making choices for themselves, maybe they'd have different responses to certain things going on. That's my opinion.
Well, that's true. But I think on the flip side of that, a lot more people are learning the importance and have learned the importance of making choices for themselves. I think that's the trend. And to me, that's an exciting trend. That's like, that's what they call the Great Awakening sometimes, or enlightenment, or, all that kind of thing.
I stay away from that.
Yeah, I don't like those terms much either. But the point is that they're describing a real phenomenon. And the real phenomenon is more and more people are saying, you know what, I'm responsible for what I experience in my life. And that's healthy. That's great. So even though there may be movements of various kinds to get people to be afraid, I think we're seeing over time they're going to be less and less effective. Just because people are becoming more consciously deliberate. And I don't even know that it's going to continue until the entire planet becomes consciously deliberate. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't think it matters a whole lot.
But if we look at the whole stuff of contrast and polarity that the stream shares with us, this whole thing about I'm waiting for the golden age. It's like, dude, what golden age? I was talking about this yesterday. It's like the whole "Make America Great Again" movement.
Yeah.
Just ask somebody when this great. I saw this thing on, I think it was on YouTube or Facebook. It was like, we're making America great again. Okay, cool.
All right.
And then it goes, but when was America great? Was it in the 60s? Yeah, it was the 60s. So when black people weren't considered to be human, maybe it was the 20s. Yeah, so when women weren't allowed to vote, was it in the 1800s? Yeah, so when you had slavery, like when is this great? When is this greatness? When is it happening? It's like, I think we can get lost in the sexy avatars and the golden age, the actual golden age. And I love when people refer to the golden age. The actual golden age refers to the periods in human history when more and more humans revered their deities and were more loyal to their deities. It's actually a phrase used by those. And if you want to go down the rabbit hole and you follow Zechariah Sitchin and those gangs, that was nefarious entities using that to manipulate and own people. There has never been this golden age recorded anywhere. Could it have been? Yes. Is it recorded? No. Could it have been held back from us as a conspiracy? Maybe. But when we look at contrast, when we look at polarity, the fact is there is always going to be a duality.
That's right.
Your nature is part and parcel of what holds reality together. So rather than obsessing after chasing after this golden age, let's just be conscious creators of our own reality today.
Which, by the way, I would describe as a golden age.
There we go.
That to me is it right there. I mean, the golden age isn't something to seek. It's something to have right now, just because we get to choose it anytime that we decide to change our perspective. It's literally that simple.
Agreed.
And even though it is that simple, we spend episode after episode talking about it. But that's okay. That's all right. No big deal.
Brilliant.
Anyway, I'm glad that we're talking about a lot of this stuff, because it's always good to kind of get this stuff out on the table and just say, you know what, good things are happening. Don't worry about the bad stuff. Just just stay there. It's a good place to be.
Yes. Don't worry about all of that funny fear stuff. The fear, the fear.
Not really worth worrying about.
Yeah, definitely not.
We will be looking forward to getting our friend Alex back. Hopefully she'll be back next Thursday. That's going to be fun. She's going to have stories to tell too, I'll bet. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just kind of putting out a projection. I think that's
a projection that's probably true, but
yeah, it's fairly safe. Yeah. So you want to stay tuned for that, Daniel. I hope things continue to go wonderfully with your newborn son and all the fun you're having there. And our best to Olga and all that's going on there. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to those who have sent in the messages. Thank you to those who sent in the message that didn't want to have it read, and I'm so sorry about that. And thank you to those of you who sent in the messages that you do want to have read. We really love those as well. Thank you to all of you who are regular listeners. We appreciate every single one of you. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.